So Daniel, I'm so excited that we're going to be talking about launches today because it's something that has been a bit of a mystery for me. And I know that from our conversations, you love to launch.
I do, very much.
Okay, so the first question I have is I think of myself as a coach and colleagues I know who are consultants that have services that they want to offer, products they want to offer, events that they're producing. What is the difference between a launch and marketing in general?
It's a great question. Well, basically, to me, the difference is launch. So marketing in general is about doing something. It's about doing something, and once you've done it, you have to do it again, and you have to do it again. You have to start from zero every single time, and there's nothing that's really created. When I think about launches is pure creation, because what I've always been struggling with in marketing as a coach and as a mentor and as an advisor, it's always been that marketing was a process and it was never a project. And that was always something I've been struggling with. And I always hated the process because it was just like, it was nothing that I really enjoyed, because it was nothing that lasted. But when I give an example, but when I create a piece of content, that is there to stay, and it's something that I can touch, it's something I can look at. So launches for me is just pure creation. And I think that's the really big difference between just doing marketing and doing a launch.
So it's a completely different mindset that you have doing a launch than marketing.
Yes, completely. Because marketing is about, very often people perceive marketing as just pushing message in front of a lot of people. And with launching, my perception of a launch is basically you create something so awesome that it will attract the right people. I inspire them to join you on a mission where both of you want to go. That's what I look at when I think about a launch. And marketing, when I just think about marketing and selling, it's just like, well, I don't want to do that. But when I think about launch, it's like, oh my God, I got to create something.
I love that. Yeah. Let me ask you, what do most people get wrong about launches? I know that there's all kinds of methods out there. And I've just been someone who just kind of does it by the seat of the pants. I'm sure a lot of people do that. So what do people get wrong about it?
I just published a post this Monday, and it was titled, "Did you just launch a workshop and nobody signed up?" That happens so often, and it's just something. A lot of people think, "Let me just create it and they will come. Let me just build it and they will come." Well, that's not the case. Almost never. Usually, you have to build an audience first, but that's not what people think about. Very often, people I work with, my clients, coaches, mentors, advisors, consultants, people like that, they often don't think about the business development piece, the marketing piece first. They think about the content creation first. So they program, they create the course, and then they're launching it, which basically means, hey, the website's ready, right? And then it's like, oh, but why is nobody signing up? I just got an email from a guy this week. They did a workshop in London for startups, to bring them together with partners and investors and other entrepreneurs. And he just emailed me because of that article that I published, and he said, "Yeah, that's exactly what just happened. We even have a pitching prize of £10,000, but we still don't have people, entrepreneurs, signing up. We've got the investors there, we've got the jury there, we've got
wow."
But it's like, and it's just like, and he's like, and it's happening in 3 weeks. What can I do? I'm like, 3 weeks is a bit of a tough timeline, but let's talk about it for next time, because he had no audience really. So very often that's what people get wrong. They create a program and then they think they launch it, but what they essentially do is they spend 6 months building a website and the content and the course for it, and then they launch it and they realize, well, nobody really signs up. Well, it's because nobody sees it, or it's not written well enough. Like the copy is not converting. Mm-hmm. So it's like those two things that people get wrong. The first one is there's not enough audience, there's not enough traffic or whatever you want to call it to the certain offer. And then second, the offer doesn't convert because maybe it's cold people coming to it, which very often doesn't really work. So you don't have a process in place to build trust with people, to build credibility with people, so people get to know you and everything. Because at the end of the day, very often people don't buy after seeing an offer online, after 2 minutes, and they don't know you, they've never seen anything from you. That usually doesn't happen. So there's got to be a process in place. And that's what I love about launches, because with launches, you can create a process. Once again, coming from that place of creation, you can create a process and a framework for people to move through, to lead people through, so they get to know you, they trust you, they see that you're credible, they see that you know what you're talking about. And then at the end of that process, once all of that's been established, you can then say, hey, and by the way, if you want to go deeper, here's something where you can go deeper. And that's what I love about launches, because you can create lots of value for people along the way. And it's not just showing up and saying, hey, here's something I have to sell.
So are you saying that the audience building is an integral part of the launch?
Absolutely. I mean, without an audience, there's no customers, right? There is no clients without an audience. And very often people neglect that, have neglected it, and they think if they just put up a website, somehow magically there's going to be people there. But the thing is, that's not going to happen, because I mean, it's just, that's not the way it is. I mean, I believe building an audience comes first. But the great thing with launches is you can build an audience while doing a launch.
Yeah.
Right. And that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because if you have a launch process in place, and it captures people's email addresses or whatever way you set it up, then you can go out there and start talking to people. I call them multipliers. You can talk to them, and you're one of my multipliers, and I am one of your multipliers. We are both multipliers for each other, because we both know people that are good for each other. You can call you can call people like that referral partners, joint venture partners, whatever. I always call them multipliers, because that's what they are. They multiply certain things. And if you just go out there and look for a couple of multipliers who will help you bring together an audience. And what drives me crazy very often is that people have been so brainwashed into online marketing and email lists and newsletters and all that crap that they forget that it's really about personal relationships. I just had this conversation with this woman, and she wants to move away from being a freelancer to more having a real business where she empowers others to do things themselves, and then at the highest level only does the freelance work, or the one-on-one work. And it's been with her, it was a great conversation, but she was saying, okay, so maybe I got a MailChimp account, so let me set that up so I can get some people from Twitter to follow me and then sign up for me. And I was like, forget that crap. Focus on the people that you already know, the people that you talk to every single week, because there's people who you talk to, and there's only a small percent of those people who say right away, let's do this, let's work together. Here's $10,000 or here's $50,000, let's do this. There's a very tiny percentage of all the people that you ever come in contact who say this. So what happens with the others? Well, with the others, we can build a relationship with. And then we have an audience. You can call it an audience or a network. And the great thing is, if you just look at the past 90 days and look at all the conversations you had, all the people that you've met at an event, one-on-one, face-to-face, as a client, as anywhere, there's so many people that both you and me and everyone else met over those past 90 days. And there's probably a couple of multipliers there. And by multiplier, I don't mean somebody who has an email list with 50,000 people that can email for you and all that. That's okay once you're at a certain level and have everything in place, and okay, now it's only about scale and nothing else. That's great then. But before, it's about finding the couple of people who have access to the market that you're trying to reach. Maybe they know 10 people they can personally email. And at the end of the day, emailing 10 people personally is a lot more valuable than having an email list of 200, 300, 400 people.
Yeah.
And it's,
so, there's couple of really good pieces of news that you just delivered for the audience here. One is that you don't have to start with a list to start the launch process. That's what I'm hearing, is that you have people in your network that you already know that can start to become part of your audience in a more formal way.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that we all know a lot more people than we think. And there are certain people in our informal networks that are maybe overlooked, but are there nevertheless for you. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And so let's talk a little bit about what, do you have a recipe for a launch or a template, or, I mean, how does one get started with this process that's building your audience as you go and creating trust and engagement as you go?
Yeah, well, I've learned all my things about launches basically from the great master, Jeff Walker, when it comes to, because he's the master of launches, with product launch formula. So I learned pretty much everything about launches from him. And, once I've learned that, and I learned also that, we all need to adjust all the information, all the things that we learn to our business, because it's going to be different for everyone. But at the end of the day, when it comes to launches, like what I would say the formula is really first, like come up with some sort of an offer, come up with some sort of an offer, because maybe let's say you've been working over the past 2 or 3 years, you've been working with one-on-one clients. So there's already tons and tons of content that you have that you can put into, a course or whatever, maybe a workshop, maybe you're going to do a retreat, whatever. But before you ever create anything in the background, just create an offer. Maybe do a 3-minute video, or just something that talks about what you're creating. The offer, like what is that workshop, what is that retreat, what is that program all about? And instead of then working, to create the program for 6 months, just have that offer there. And so that's the first step. Like have the offer there.
So let me stop you for a second, because I know that there's probably people like me. I was an engineer for 20 years. So I'm thinking, well, how do I do the offer if I haven't created the actual content yet, right? So how do you get to that place of creating the offer without actually having the content created?
Yeah, well, there's it depends on how detailed you want to go, but I mean, the first step is really know your avatar, like know exactly who you're talking to. And if you're saying, my avatar is CEOs or my avatar is entrepreneurs, well, it's not. You got to be much more specific than that to actually have a real picture in front of your mind, what that avatar is. Because if you don't know what the avatar looks like in front of your mental eye, it's not specific enough. It's not clear enough for you. So you got to be really able to picture that person. And once you know that, then you can work on the offer, because the offer will be something that they're struggling with. I give an example. I just make the example with Linked Revolution, with my program that I've launched a couple of times. I'm very successful with it. And that's how I did it. I started with not creating any content. I just put up a video that talked about it for 15 minutes and I launched it. And then I think 20 people signed up the first time, which was awesome. But what really the most important thing was I knew my avatar. My avatar for that program is an executive coach, a leadership coach, who has been in business for about 1, 2, maybe 3 years. They're doing okay. Business is coming in. They got a couple of clients, but now it's okay, I've worked with the people I already know. I've worked with the people I already had in my network. But now how do I go out there in the world and find more of those people? And how do I do that so I don't have to be marketing and selling, but I can just basically show up as who I am and make this entire process of business development really authentic, and not only that, but make it fun and make it effortless. So that is my avatar. So I'm very clear, very specific about who that is. And because then I know what they're struggling with. They're seeing coaching their clients and marketing as something completely different. They also hate marketing and selling because they see it as something different, and because they see it as a process, because it's just something they don't enjoy, and they feel like they have to be somebody else when they're marketing. They feel like they're not good at promoting themselves and all of this stuff. So that's what they're struggling with. So what the program or the offer gives them basically, and the program then delivers on, is do business on LinkedIn by building authentic relationships. That is the offer. And then I expand on that, and first I start talking about the challenge, the issue. Like, what is that? The emotional part, the rational part. They don't feel like what they're, the way they do business is aligned with who they are. They don't feel it's fun. They actually hate doing it, but they know they have to do it. So it's a drag. So they start hating what they're doing. And it's just becoming this thing that they have to get up to in the morning and get to. And it's no longer the thing that they love doing, because the way they do business is not fun anymore.
So you really get inside the head of the person that you're trying to reach, how they feel, what they think about it when they get up in the morning, their framework, their mental models of how they see the world, and the stuff that they do on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And I'm also guessing that it's from your own experience that that it can be different from how they actually experience the world today. Is that right? Like marketing doesn't have to be hard. It can be easy. So but it's based on your own experience of having used, LinkedIn or some other tool or.
Yeah, I mean, it's based on my own experience of having to do 100 cold calls a week and hating it. And then just figuring out a different way of doing it, because I hated it. It's like it was horrible for me to do that. When I was back and forth, so I figured out a different way of doing it, and I used like LinkedIn since like the first months they started it, and I just like got really good at that, and I got really good at building relationships first, because I realized that when I build the relationship first, the business then can naturally happen. But if I just try to get business or try to sell, then a relationship never happens, and most often the sale also doesn't happen.
Yeah. So what I love about this, Daniel, is that there are some people out there who might be thinking, well, I don't know what to offer. And it's go back to your own experience of things that you have struggled with in the past and then found your way through it is one way to look at what to offer.
Yeah, I believe like at the very core, we're always our ideal clients. I'm not saying we're our ideal clients at the practical level. There may be a completely different profession, but at the deep level, we're always our ideal clients. I mean, you're a great example of this with your story, and the same with me. And I very much believe that. And if we let that happen, if we actually accepted that this is the case, everything gets so much easier, because now we can talk about experiences. Now people can resonate with us. Yeah,
I agree. I'm just, this, I'm launching a group coaching program that's based on my own personal journey for the last year of working with my negative ego, trying to manage it, becoming more emotionally fluent with my feelings. And so I know what it feels like not to be able to identify my negative ego when it's at work, not to be able to feel my feelings, and I know the difference of what my life can look like when I am more capable there. So you're absolutely right. So let's keep going with the process. So the first piece is to create an offer from what you know about your own experience that could help people that you really want to help, and in the framework of getting inside their heads and how they feel. So what would be the next step of a launch?
So basically the next step is putting up the offer. So it's going to be somewhere visible where people can find it, right? And then once you have that, what I believe the next step is you gotta get people to that offer, right? So if you don't have an audience yourself yet, which I believe you always have, because there's always, if you're not born yesterday, you've probably met a couple of people throughout your career and life. So there's probably people you already know. And that's another thing, like, it's not about reaching 100,000 people. It's about reaching a couple of people who trust you, who know you, who are a good fit for this, that you can just invite. Because very often it's like, okay, I've got to figure out a way to sell this. No, it's not about selling. It's about inviting people and seeing if they're a good fit. If they're not, that's cool. And if they are, great. So it's really about getting people to see the offer. So look at your personal network. And then if you want to expand it, then what I suggest is get in touch with a couple of multipliers. And you probably already have a couple of multipliers in your network. Also, don't think too far, like who are the big organizations that work with my audience? No, think about who are the people who you already know, whose friends are a good fit for this, and not the people who have email lists with 10,000 people and everything. Just focus on the people that have a network, a personal network of people, friends, colleagues, that could be a good fit for this. Reach out to those people and say, hey, I'm creating something and it's going to be great for this reason. And it's going to be awesome. Here's why I'm doing it. Here's the bigger impact. Here's the bigger picture of it. And I would love you to be a partner in this. You know, would you be willing to reach out to 10 people you already know? And maybe, you know, if you want to, you can pay them a commission, but very often that's not even necessary if you know those people personally. They will say, hell, of course I'm going to do that. You're my friend. You know, if we've known each other, of course we can do that. So, yeah, that would be the next step.
So I'm hearing it's more of a grassroots, personal touch approach to get, if you don't have a list already, to getting the offer seen by the right people. Yeah. And then from there, is there like another video, or it sounded like when you first described the launch process that it is a series of steps to increase confidence and trust and engagement.
Absolutely. So in the PLF model, product launch formula model, there's basically 3 different launches in the process of launching. You got the seed launch, you got the internal launch, and then you got the joint venture launch. And what I just described is a seed launch. A seed launch is basically all you do is send out a couple of emails to people and say, here's something I'm creating. Here's why I'm creating it. Here's the video. And they watch the video. And then the first idea is getting a couple of people involved in the program so you can individually work through with them through the program and customize the content to them. Because very often when we build a program and then we have people go through it and we have the program set up and everything, spend months on it and everything, we have people go through it and then eventually we realize, oh, you know, there's so many different questions that came up that I haven't thought of before. So why create the content first, you know, when you can have these people go through the program and tell you exactly what they need and want. So that's what the seed launch is. You basically work very close with those people through the program to tell you exactly what you need to create. Of course, you got to make sure these are the right people, they're the right audience, you know, and not some distraction outside. But then if they're the right audience, they'll tell you exactly what they create. And you get to tap into their mind and head, and you get to know exactly what they're thinking and what they're struggling with and everything. And then you walk through with them. And now at the end, you've got, not only do you have the program, the content, which is totally customized to your avatar now, but you also got another offer now that is so much better than the first one because you got all these insights. And now, based on what people said, now the internal launch is about creating 3 pieces of pre-launch content that create lots and lots of value for people. And it also, you know, builds trust, it builds credibility, it builds likability, it builds excitement for what's coming and all of this. And that's what I'm doing with Linked Revolution. I got 3 pre-launch videos between 25 and 35 minutes, and they create tremendous value for people. I basically outline everything, you know, as much as I can in 25 minutes. But as we all know, you know, you can't go that deep in 25 minutes or in 35 minutes. So once people go through that, it's like a free course. It's like a free mini course. Once people go through that, very often they say, oh, you know, this is amazing, but how can I learn more? How can I know more about this? How can I dive deeper? And then the answer is, well, here's the program. So that's basically how a launch is set up. So that's what I love about the launches, because that's the core model of the launch. You create that pre-launch content. It's like a movie, you know, a new Hollywood movie comes out, and they're not just releasing the movie in the cinemas and say, hey, the movie's there.
Yeah.
A year before, they have the first trailer, and then they distribute that trailer, and the trailer gets 10 million views, and then they have the next trailer, and the next, and the next, and they create a buzz and excitement and everything. It's a bit like that, because now when it's then shown in the cinema, people go like, oh my god, I gotta watch this movie because I've they've been talking about it for a year.
Yeah, yeah. So the seed launch sounds like what I think of as a pilot. Well, I mean, we don't call it a pilot
It's a
in
pilot,
your
yes.
language, but it is a pilot to understand the audience better and to really solicit from them what they really need based on them seeing something that you've put out there, your best guess.
Yeah.
And then the internal launch is interesting because I was surprised when you said you had 3 videos that were 25 to 35 minutes long, and the traditional notion is that you should keep your videos short in terms of marketing. And what I'm hearing is when we're talking about in the world of launches, it's not this short like teaser. It is like the meat that you're trying to
Yes.
give in digestible chunks.
Yeah, it's basically
Yeah.
it's 3 pieces. Like I'll give you an example. The first video is like 26 minutes long, and it's all about like one piece of the puzzle, which is how do you get meetings with any kind of decision maker that you want to meet with.
Mm.
And then I outline the entire process. And I very much hope that people who watch it will actually apply it, because now they see results. They get like, oh my God, I got to meet this great, amazing person. And
Yeah.
now when I launch the program and they want more, it's not just me saying this is what's going to happen. And it's also not just, other people went through the program saying this is what's going to happen. It's now them knowing this is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's no longer the story that I tell them or others tell them. It's now the story that they tell themselves because they've experienced it. So I want people to get incredible results from the pre-launch content. So pre-launch content has almost nothing to do with marketing and selling in the traditional sense.
Right.
The great thing is, because it's so valuable and just it gets people results, it's the most effective marketing there is, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I love this point about it's no longer your story, it's their story, because you've given them the experience to tell their story.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
That is, boy, that's just so different, Daniel, in terms of how people think of marketing and providing products to really give people that taste, that experience. And it seems so much in alignment with where our world has been heading for a while. It's all this experience economy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's beautiful. And so after you do this internal launch, is that then when you offer kind of I don't want to say the final product, but it's what you've intended to deliver all along. Is that right?
Absolutely. So the way I always do it is the seed launch is live. So we got like 4 webinars. They're like 90 minutes long or something, and they're totally live. So I have the content created before, then we go through it, but live. I'm there, they're there. And then the second time around, it's all videos and we have coaching calls. But they've got content all up there now, and I'm just there basically for the coaching. So I don't need to deliver the content live, because it doesn't really make sense for me to deliver the content live, because it's the same content over and over again. What matters most is the coaching then, to be very individual. And that's basically when now you've got the product, whatever that is, the online course, you've got the workshop, you've got the retreat, you've got the methodology, whatever it is that you're creating, you've got the content now. So now you've got the content and you've tested that the process works of enrolling into the program. Now you can take this and take it out to the partners, because now you can say, okay, I have something and it works. And it doesn't just work and sell, but it creates tremendous value for people before it ever sells anything. And so now partners say, oh my God, this is amazing.
Huh, wow. Yeah, so that's the last piece of it, is to actually go out to joint venture partners.
Exactly. That's what I'm doing right now in July. I'm doing a joint venture launch with a couple of partners on board. And it's very interesting. Like very often when I talk to people about building partnerships, they're afraid of building partnerships because they don't feel like they've enough proof that something works, or what if something messes up? What if what if nobody signs up? What if the process goes wrong? What if? But once you've tested the process, you now have a lot more confidence to go out there and say, I've tested this, it works. And not only does it sell, but it creates incredible results for people who go through it. Now you've got the confidence to say, hey, to whatever person, to whatever partner or multiplier you talk to, and say, this works.
Yeah. Wow, that's fabulous. So this entire process, what I'm hearing, takes some time, a lot more time than people would imagine. Is that right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah, it does. It's like everything when it comes to creation. Very often, creation takes a lot more time than just doing something. It's a bit like when you're in your business and you have somebody working for you, and you're a control freak, and you're saying, "Oh, let me just do this by myself." It's going to take me like an hour. It's going to probably take them 2 hours, and you just do it yourself. Well, if you do it yourself, you're going to do it next time yourself again. But if you delegate it and take the time to delegate it, well, it's off your plate forever. And it's the same thing with launches. It's the exact same thing, because once you create a launch, you never, or anything basically, if you create anything, you never again have to start from zero. And that's why everything that I teach always comes from a place of creation, because then it suddenly starts to be fun and interesting, because now you create something that starts working for you.
Yeah, I love that. So, I know that one of the things that you're really teaching here is how to sell without being salesy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, do you ever get pushback from your audience in terms of like, that's not going to work? I've tried that before. It doesn't work. You have to do it this way instead. Do you ever get any of that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I get lots of weird emails, but I've become very good at filtering people out. I mean, I started unsubscribing people myself. Because if I see somebody's not in my audience, in my tribe, hell, please get off my email list.
Yes.
And if you want to criticize me, please do that somewhere else. Don't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like whatever. I have learned these lessons the hard way. And I've learned that you can't please everyone, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Not everyone is going to love you. There's always going to be people who are going to not agree with you or whatever, and that's cool. That's okay. But the thing is, that's only okay when you know who your tribe is. And I know who my tribe is. And I'm very grateful for that. And because of that, I can say, you're not in my tribe. That's cool. So I know I have my filter, so I can get the real feedback from the right people. And I know when criticism comes in from the wrong people, and I can say, okay, that's your opinion, whatever.
Yeah. So you have real clarity on who it is that you're trying to attract and who really belongs in your world that you're trying to impact. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What's been your biggest surprise in doing launches?
Well, there was a couple. I think the biggest surprise by now was that for the seed launch that I did for Linked Revolution, that 20 people signed up, because I was not expecting 20 people to sign up, because I was like, okay, let me just try this and see if it works and everything. And I was like, maybe somebody's going to sign up, maybe not. And I was totally surprised but now I'm not surprised anymore, because I know it's because I hit the tribe. I hit the right tribe. I was targeting, like, with the message, it was for the right tribe. And I've always realized that when I launch something, when I create something and it doesn't resonate with people, it's very often not because the offer is wrong, but I'm trying to target the wrong people. And because of that, the offer is also not resonating, and it's probably not as clear, and it's not as authentic as it should be. So that was one of the biggest surprises, really seeing, okay, it resonates. It really deeply resonates, because I always thought, like, when I did the first launch, or one of the first launches, like 2 years ago or something like that, it was very practical, rational driven and everything. And I always felt like you can't lead with feelings. You can't lead with emotions, right? Because it's a business program. So you got to be rational, insights, and everything. But what I've learned is that you gotta talk to the heart first, and then you can talk to the head. And that's what I do in every single launch now, and that works incredibly well. Because what I also learned is my tribe, they're not technical people, they're not techies, they're not, my tribe are executive and leadership coaches. They are service business owners. They're very heart driven. They're very emotionally driven. And so if I talk to the heart first, I really reach them. And then once the heart is there, once the heart agrees, I can then talk about the rational side, because the rational side is also important. Yeah. Like, that's how it's going to make you money. That's how it's going to get you conversations and appointments and everything. But first, I learned that I need to talk to the heart. And that was a big lesson that I learned.
That's a beautiful approach, to really focus on that first, knowing that you still have to bring in kind of the analytical, rational piece of what you're speaking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've also learned, like, another big surprise was also that if I talk to the head first, or only the head, it also works. But there's a very big but, because the people who end up in the programs, they're not my tribe.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I just that's like one of the, I think that was the first launch of Linked Revolution. And I did that, and I had the conversation with people, and I was in the group coaching calls and everything. And for the first time, I really felt like I just want to have beer. I just want to go, drink a few beers with those people.
Yeah.
And I never had that before. I was always like, I really like those people. They're cool and everything. But now it's like, I want to meet every single one of them personally. I want to have, I want to have a drink with them. I just want to, because that's just awesome. And that's just my vibe. And that only happens when I talk to the heart first and then the head. That's something big I realized.
Oh, I'm so glad you clarified that, because I had that question in my mind. What is it that causes us to talk to the wrong people? And you're saying if you're going first to the head rather than the heart.
I'm not saying that that's the case for everyone, and it may not be. It's the case for me. If I talk to the head first, or only the head, I end up with the wrong people.
Yeah. I would say that experience resonates with my experience as well. That when I have been able to create the offer and put the words from a resonance of a really open heart, I'm attracting the right people, and the people that come in are people that I love. Yeah. And like you said, you want to go out and you want to meet them. Our work often is virtual, and so it's like, oh, I can't wait to meet you in person.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So what's your last piece of advice for someone who's, really now grabbed onto this idea of launches as being something, a creative process and a process around engaging? Like, what's your one last piece of advice to that person?
My one last piece is, everything is a launch. Everything. Because everything is creation. And if we do everything from a place of creation, everything becomes effortless. So I'll give an example. Like, every single piece now in my business, I do from a place of creation. I give an example when I try to build a relationship with potential partners, right? For expanding my reach and my programs. I used to be in a place of, okay, building those connections and building partnerships and connecting with people. But the thing is, that never really motivated me in that mindset, because it was just like a little bit empty. But now I come from this place of creation. So instead of asking now, how can I connect with potential partners? I ask, what can I create to bring potential partners into my world that creates massive value for them? And now I got a different perspective. So I do it with every single piece. Like, that's why I create so much content and articles. And that's why I love the launches so much. It's always from a place of creation. So whenever, my biggest piece of advice for launches or anything in business, I very much believe is everything, in everything you do, if you come from a place of creation, it gets a lot easier. So it's just a change in question. Instead of asking, how can I get, how can I do, how can I, whatever, what can I create in order to? And if we just change that question, at least for me, it made a tremendous difference.
Yeah. And when I start to finish that question, what can I create? I think of it as, what can I create in order to connect more deeply?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Because also what it does, it empowers you, because very often when we think, how can I connect deeper with that person? I don't know. I'm helpless. Right?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But if we ask, what can I create? Now I can start to think about possibilities.
Yes.
It's a totally
Yes.
different thing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking this time, Daniel. I'm so excited about what you have really illuminated for myself and others that are going to watch this. Just a wonderful content. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol.